What's up everybody, I'm HoopsandHipHop, and it is time to cover some more awesome theories. We have been going through every single region of the Pokemon world so far, and I have been giving you guys what I think are the 5 best theories that come from every Pokemon region. And today we are going to cover the often controversial Unova region. Now of course Unova debuted in Pokemon Black and White, and Pokemon Black and White are often revered for arguably having the best story that we've ever seen in a Pokemon game, and with a great story within a video game often comes great fan theories as well, and the Unova region is no exception because there are some great theories to come out of this specific region of the Pokemon world, and today I am going to give you guys what I think are the 5 best ones that we've ever seen. Now, just like every other video in this series, I am giving my opinion on these theories, and obviously I'm only talking about theories that I myself have heard of. Now, granted, I have heard a lot of Pokemon theories in my day, but the internet is a very vast and wondrous place, and I'm obviously bound to miss a theory here or there. So if you don't hear your favorite theory from the Unova region in this video, I sincerely apologize. It's nothing personal, but the theories that I do have to share are pretty dang good if I do say so myself, hence the title of the video. So with all of that being said, why don't we go ahead and just check it out. This first one is not only one of the best Unova theories in my opinion, but it's also one of the most classic ones as well. And that is the idea that N, one of the main villains from Pokemon Black and White, is actually a Zoroark. Now, points in favor of this theory include the fact that N has the ability to speak to Pokemon, which obviously would make a lot of sense if he were a Pokemon himself, and his hairstyle is also vaguely reminiscent of Zoroark's hairstyle as well. However, if this theory only consisted of those 2 points, it definitely wouldn't be on this list of the 5 best Unova theories, because of course it goes much deeper than this. In Pokemon Black and White 2, you are actually able to battle N, and the way that you find him, since he is waiting for you deep within the ruins of Team Plasma's castle, is that a Zoroark actually leads you to him. Now, it is implied and suggested that this is N's Zoroark that he uses on his team, but the interesting thing about this scene is that as you follow the Zoroark into Team Plasma's castle, when you eventually get to the castle, you no longer see the Zoroark, and instead N is standing there in his place, almost as if the Zoroark made itself an illusion of the N character, since of course Zoroarks have the ability to create illusions of themselves in the likeness of Pokemon and presumably people as well. So that's one more coincidental point in favor of this theory, but the last point that really makes this theory believable and puts it amongst the 5 best Unova theories in my own opinion has to do with the memory link feature of Pokemon Black 2 and White 2. Now, if you are not familiar with the memory link, essentially what it is a feature of Pokemon Black 2 and White 2 that allows you to see into the past of various characters throughout the game, and it gives you a little backstory on each individual character, and it's actually really cool. With that being said, one of the memory links occurs in Driftvale City, where if you go into one of the buildings within the city, you'll run into a Zoroark and a memory link will then immediately start playing. However, once the memory is being shown on screen and the cutscene starts playing, there is no Zoroark to be found, and instead, N appears later in the memory. Now, this is a very key point because of the key word in the phrase memory link, that of course being memory. Now, if this is supposedly Zoroark's memory, then where is Zoroark? It's kind of a big deal for Zoroark to be there if it is indeed Zoroark's memory, but instead of seeing Zoroark, we actually see N, who doesn't appear within the building when the memory link starts, which really gives a lot of steam and a lot of momentum to this idea, because how could this be Zoroark's memory if Zoroark isn't within the memory itself? Even though it is kind of a crazy idea, that combined with all of the other evidence we talked about really paints a fascinating idea of what could potentially be for one of the deepest and coolest villains in Pokemon that we've ever seen. Now this next one is another big claim as well, and that is the idea that Zygarde from Generation 6 was originally going to debut in Generation 5 in the Kalos region. Now hear me out, because I know this does sound crazy, and it's about to sound even crazier when I tell you that the evidence of this theory is actually coming from a rumor from the pre-release days of Pokemon Black and White. However, upon digging up some old Gen 5 rumors from the days before Black and White's release, I actually uncovered something that is very, very interesting given the knowledge that we have today in 2019. Now, back in the days after Gen 5's reveal but before its release, we obviously had rumors for the game just like we have rumors for every new Pokemon game. And one in particular that actually came from a very reliable source at the time stated a number of different details about the game in an alleged leak. Now, amongst these different details in particular, the leaker stated that in this generation, there were going to be 157 new Pokemon, bringing the total up to 650. Now, obviously, this rumor was almost right, because we actually ended up getting 156 new Pokemon, which gave us 649 total, meaning that this rumor was only one off on the amount of new Pokemon we got in Generation 5, which certainly adds to its credibility. But then where it gets interesting is the next bullet point that says that there's going to be a large green Cobra legendary Pokemon that essentially serves as a counterpart to both Reshiram and Zekrom. Now, when I think about a large green Cobra legendary Pokemon, what do I think of? Well, probably the same thing that you are thinking of, and that would of course be Zygarde. Zygarde is definitely large, it's definitely green, it being a snake could definitely be described as a cobra, and the fact that it debuts as a legendary Pokemon, just like this rumor says, in the very next generation after, complementing Xerneas and Yveltal just like it said in the rumor that it would complement Reshiram and Zekrom, just seems way too coincidental to actually be a legitimate coincidence. And the fact that the rumor also stated that there would only be one more Pokemon in Unova than there actually was in the final game kind of paints a picture that maybe they did actually have Zygarde planned for Generation 5, and it was going to be the 157th Pokemon, but then they decided to scrap it last second for some reason, save it for Generation 6, and that's what gave us our final number of 156. There's obviously no way to verify this theory unless Game Freak kind of came out and confirmed it themselves, but nonetheless, I think it's a very interesting one, and it would have been fascinating to see had Zygarde actually debuted in Generation 5 if this theory is correct. Third up is a theory that actually has to do with some controversial topics, so I'm going to do my best to kind of tiptoe around those, while at the same time giving you guys the full picture of the theory in order to not get claimed or smacked down or demonetized by YouTube in any way, because of course we don't want that. But the theory here is that Route 4 in the Unova region is actually based on Ground Zero of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Now, obviously, this is a pretty big claim, but trust me, there is substantial evidence to support it. Number one is that Route 4 is the designated desert area of the Unova region that we see within many Pokemon games, but the issue here with this desert area specifically is where in the Unova region it's actually placed. Route 4 lies just north of Castelia City and just south of Nimbasa City, which, when you look at the entire Unova region map as a whole, seems like a rather odd choice because there really isn't anything about this specific area of the region where to the south you have a huge metropolis, and to the north you have a rather big city as well with a ton of greenery surrounding all of this. It just kinda seems like a weird placement for this type of area. The way that Route 4 connects to Ground Zero in particular, though, has to do with Castelia City itself, as Castelia City is based on New York City, which of course is where the 9/11 terrorist attacks actually happened. And as we can see with Route 4 being a desert area, it's a rather dusty, desolate, lifeless type of area that is directly connected to the New York City-based city in Castelia City, and I'm sure you can kind of see how this morbid picture is starting to kind of put itself together. And it doesn't really get any less morbid from here, as within Route 4 itself, you can also find a lot of unfinished buildings. Within the context of Pokemon, it's because there's currently a construction site going on Route 4, so they're currently in the process of being built, but I'm pretty sure you can easily see how this correlates to Ground Zero without me having to go into any of the more specific gruesome details. And finally, to top it all off, we also have the Desert Resort. The Desert Resort is, well, a desert resort within Route 4 that is actually home to a bunch of ruins. Yeah, I think you can probably see where we're going with this. It is theorized and highly likely that these ruins are actually the ruins of an ancient city, which, given all of the other evidence we've already talked about, and given the way that this evidence kind of just piles on top of that in a rather convincing fashion, paints a rather convincing picture, once again without me going into too much detail, of the likelihood that Route 4 is indeed actually based on Ground Zero. Okay, now we're gonna go back into something a little less controversial, but just as interesting, and this theory has to do with Ghetsis. Now, this theory is pretty cut and dry in terms of how convincing it is, but basically what it suggests is that Ghetsis' right arm was pretty much destroyed by Qrem during one of Ghetsis' previous attempts to control the Pokemon. This is supported by the fact that in almost every instance in which we see Ghetsis, as well as in both versions of his official artwork, his right arm is nowhere to be seen and is instead hidden under his signature cloak. However, there is one moment within the games where we actually do get to see Ghetsis' right arm, or rather his right hand, and that would be in the intro sequence to Pokemon Black and White. In the sequence, we see Ghetsis placing a crown on top of N's head, and when he holds the crown up in the air with both hands, his right hand is exposed, but it does not look like a regular hand and is instead completely black. And given that we know that one of Ghetsis' targets is Qrem, the Ice-type legendary Pokemon of the Unova region, which is clearly able to freeze anything it wants, it's very likely that in a previous attempt to catch Qrem, Ghetsis actually confronted it and failed, which resulted in his right arm being frostbitten by the icy powers of Qrem. Personally, I think this theory is so solid that as far as I'm concerned, it's basically already a fact pending an actual confirmation from Game Freak, but I will let you guys go ahead and be the judge for yourself as to whether or not you believe this is actually true. And the last and final theory we have to talk about here actually offers an in-game explanation as to why there is actually a desert route just north of the metropolis of Castelia City, and it's actually fairly convincing. Disregarding the possible real-world origins of Route 4 and the Desert Resort, this theory suggests that the Desert Resort was made a desert because of the effects of Volcarona. Volcarona is a Pokemon that, according to the Pokédex, is said to have provided a replacement for the sun when it was actually desperately needed, and as such, a shrine for it was built at the Desert Resort in the form of the Relic Castle. We already talked in that previous Route 4 theory how the Desert Resort was very likely at one point an ancient city, but we're gonna go ahead and go over the more specific pieces of evidence here. Number 1, there are obviously ruins of human structures within the Desert Resort, which obviously confirms at the very least that there was some type of human settlement in the area, if not a full-blown city. In addition to this, we also have the Pokemon Sigilyph and Yamask who are present in the area. According to the Pokédex, Sigilyph is, or once were, guardians of an ancient city, which pretty much says it cut and dry right there that this is an ancient city, given that we already had this speculation to begin with. But going even further, we also have the Pokemon Yamask, who, once again according to its Pokédex, is actually the spirit of a human who was reincarnated into a Pokemon who holds a mask of its face from when it was a human. Like, not only is that morbid, it also shows that most likely there were actual human beings that used to live here that eventually turned into the Yamask once they died. So now that we've pretty much established that the Desert Resort was once an ancient city, how exactly did it become a desert? Well, that actually all has to do with Volcarona. As we said earlier, in ancient times, Volcarona once used itself as a replacement for the sun in order to presumably save the whole world, and in a debt of gratitude, the people of the desert resort city constructed the Relic Castle as a shrine for Volcarona, and eventually Volcarona came to rest and live there. However, this actually had some unexpected consequences for the people of the desert resort city, as because Volcarona has the capability of being a replacement for the sun in the first place, it obviously has heating capabilities comparable to that of the sun itself, which means when you put something like that in the middle of your city, it's obviously going to dry your city out, burn it up, and basically kill any life within the immediate area, which actually does a pretty good job of explaining why there is this big desert just randomly placed between these two huge cities, which is also surrounded by a big green lush environment. And there we have it, everybody. Those were 5 of the best Unova Pokemon theories of all time in my own opinion. Now, Unova and Generation 5 as a whole is definitely controversial amongst Pokemon fans. Some people like it, some people hate it, but you can't deny that every one of these theories is pretty dang good. If you guys enjoyed the video though, be sure to give it a like and let me know down in the comments below which one of these theories was your favorite, or if you have another Unova theory you would like to share. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe for more Pokemon videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and if you like Pokemon music, consider following me on Spotify because it directly helps to support the channel here, which I would greatly appreciate. With all of that being said though, I will be back on Saturday for another video, so be sure to hit that notification bell so you can be notified as soon as it goes live, and with all of that being said, you know I love you guys, and I will smell you guys later.